my name's Julie Scurfield. I'm Strategic Manager with Children's Services in Durham County Council.
I'm Nicola James, Head Teacher at St Andrews Primary School in Bishop Auckland.
My name's Fiona Smith. I'm here to represent the One Point Service and Families First team managers.
So we've been carrying out some joint work over the past year between primary school head teachers and team managers across our Children's Services team, namely the One Point Service and Families First Children's Social Care teams. And the purpose of that joint work has been to see if we can come up with developing a model, a way of working together that will improve how we share information between our services about vulnerable children, pupils who we have some shared concerns about. So I'm just going to ask Nicola and Fiona a few questions about how that piece of work has gone from their perspective, from their various points of view. So I'm going to go to Nicola first, and I'm going to say, Nicola, can you say a little bit about what were the experiences of head teachers that led to this development?
So generally there was a shared feeling of frustration between head teachers that our information that we had about our vulnerable children wasn't getting to the right people. We were concerned that we didn't know who to get in touch with, who was the right person, and what to do when we did get the right person. We felt that we had a lot of valuable information about children and that wasn't getting through to the right people, and that we felt that we knew our children better than anyone because we had them with us every day. Just a general frustration that the communication wasn't being shared and that we didn't have a solid or good relationships with the people who needed to know that information.
So Fiona, can you tell us a little bit about how well developed you think the relationships were between our Children's Services teams, Families First and One Point, with the primary schools before this development took place?
I don't believe relationships between One Point Service and Families First team managers were as developed as they could have been with primary head teachers. More often than not, we would attend meetings, cluster meetings, call meetings, had we been invited, but that was not an agreed process or structure, if you like, that we regularly did attend. And quite often we would be very reactive to telephone calls that we may receive from head teachers who would be frustrated or dissatisfied with the case direction of the people that they had in their school, in potentially wanted to make a complaint in some instances.
So I got a sense from you both that things weren't going great before this development happened. So Nicola, can you just say a little bit about what the working group did to address those challenges? What key things did they put in place?
Our main aim was to improve relationships and communication between the head teachers and the One Point and Family First workers. So first of all, we got contact details out to head teachers so everybody knew what everybody's role was, how they could contact them and who the best person was to contact for different things. So that was first of all. Second, we arranged for the Family First and One Point managers to attend cluster meetings regularly within our pilot groups. And that enabled everybody to meet people face to face, which we thought was very, very important so that we could make that connection and have that person-to-person interaction. At those meetings, lots of frustrations were aired, so it was really important that we had that opportunity to get off our chest what our frustrations were, and lots of themes came up as well, so we could discuss those. But it became quite clear that there was some individual cases that needed to be talked about as well, and we needed something else to address that. So secondly, we set up some case clinics where head teachers could go along just on their own to talk to either a Family First or One Point manager to talk about specific cases. And these cases would be families where we just had little niggles about, we weren't really going anywhere with it, but we knew something wasn't quite right. And so the clinics were set up, we pilot them within our clusters for the pilot group and the working party, and then we reviewed those, how they worked and improved as we went on.
So obviously, Fiona, we've heard from Nicola that the experience for head teachers was generally a really positive one. Do you want to say a little bit about how that whole going to cluster meetings felt for you as a team manager from the One Point Service, and maybe how your colleagues from Families First experienced those initial meetings?
The first meeting, I have to admit, was extremely challenging. I think myself and my Families First team manager colleague who attended had a pretty tough time from head teachers. Understandably so, though, to be honest, because I think we felt that we had to soak up the frustrations and emotions of head teachers who had not had contact with us at all for whatever reason up until that particular point. We took it. we listened to those frustrations. What became very apparent was there was emerging themes, and when we looked across the pilot areas, those themes were quite consistent across the county. But namely, about just having the initial contact details of your 1 point team manager, your family's first team manager. So on a day-to-day basis, if you needed to get in touch with them, you could do that. By telephone call, it wasn't going to be an onerous process for them. Even to the point of team profiles, of knowing what job roles different team members within the 1 point service had, and to understand just the capacity and the nature of the team, because I think there was quite a few misconceptions about our roles and what we did, and obviously we needed to hear it from the head teacher's perspective. So the initial meetings were very challenging, but very worthwhile. I'm pleased to say that following those initial challenging meetings, we have been able to establish regular attendance at cluster meetings. We have an agenda item on there regularly to be able to information share. And as Nicola's already mentioned, there was a lot of issues that were case specific coming out from head teachers. So we felt that the introduction of case clinics was absolutely vital to provide that space and time for head teachers to discuss those individual cases with us in a constructive manner.
So, Nicola and Fiona, you've both talked quite a bit about the case clinics as being really something that's emerged from this development, and it's been really beneficial. Would you like to say a little bit more about what sort of practical help and support you've been able to gain and you've been able to provide through having those case clinics?
So for me, going to the case clinics was really important because I've got quite a few families where I might just have a niggle about a family and I haven't got enough to put a referral in without consent, or I may not have consent from parents but I still have a worry about them. And so I might go along to a case clinic with everything that I've got. So I'd have chronologies, any information, any disclosures or anything like that I think I just need somebody to help me unpick it, really. So I need that other professional to talk to me from another point of view who would know who to signpost me to. And it was really helpful for one particular case that I remember, and we did get the ball rolling with that family, and it was a family that I thought, I'm never going to get anywhere with this family. But the 1 point manager really helped me unpick it and put me in the right direction. Is that the kind of cases that you've got as well?
It is. We absolutely found that head teachers came to our clinics with cases that had that niggle, that gut feeling. There wasn't necessarily the tangible evidence that underpins needs, because actually our processes are in place to help us and support us with that. More those cases that on Friday head teachers a bit anxious about over the weekend, not quite sure what's going on.
It's that evidence base, isn't it, that we talked about before?
It's about trying to find that, be creative in ways to try and find that evidence base so we know where to take cases. And what we found was we had names of children in advance of the case clinics, which allowed us to do our own agency checks so that we could make the best use of that time as we possibly could. We made sure that we looked at our resources where we could facilitate and help and support. So we would access things like, I think, Family Mentor might go along if it was a process issue in relation to single assessment or TAF or family plan, or we would send one of our workers along to the TAF just to try and unpick and ask some of those curious questions as to what's going on. Extra agency checks were carried out where we felt was appropriate, and we also used some of our resources to help head teachers kind of facilitate discussions with families or children, young people, get the voice of the child, that sort of thing. So they found it really, really beneficial, and so did we, and I think it definitely has helped us kind of strengthen that relationship and understanding between what the two services can and can't achieve.
I think for me, talking to the head teachers within my cluster, I know the ones that have been to the first clinics, they've since gone back. So the ones that have had an experience of it know how valuable it's been. So they've gone back with other case studies. And I know of some head teachers that go with 5 families because they know they're going to get something worthwhile from the experience.
No, that's great.
We've definitely found the same teachers, head teachers will keep coming back. And actually it's not just about head teachers, it's about a school representative that's appropriate, who knows sufficient about the child, who will come. So we'll have SENCOs attending as well as heads and deputy heads.
PSAs, learning mentors, anybody can go along to them. So, just somebody who can share that information and bring it back to the school.
Great. So that's really good to hear that such positive outcomes from the case clinics for the schools and for the Families First and 1 Point teams. I'm just really interested in how you think that has impacted on children and their families.
So that's a really good question, because if you remember in the very beginning when we talked about this working party, we talked about how this was going to impact the child, and at the centre of everything we did had to be for the benefit of the child. And I think ultimately what we've done with the working party is made sure that the children have a better outcome. And any children that we've been to case clinics for, or any frustrations that we've had at cluster meetings, any issues or themes that we've had, have all been to have a better outcome for the children. For me, the children in my school in particular have got the right help that they needed. And we've got that help early so that things don't escalate and snowball and get out of control. And for me, that's been the ultimate success.
From our point of view, I definitely feel that the impact it's had on children, people and families, that they'd be able to get the right support at the earliest opportunity. And quite often some of the barriers that were in place was about not knowing what was out there, what services, what support was available. In those case clinics themselves, as well as the attendance at the cluster meetings, allowed us to have that information sharing with head teachers, for example, parent support within the VCS for children with special educational needs. There's a whole wealth and rich base of support out there. It was about making sure everybody knew about it and acted in a timely manner to get the right services to the children at the earliest opportunity.
So I hope in doing this we've been able to share just a little bit about some of the real successes that we've achieved over the past year by just bringing our services much closer together in those joint working arrangements for children and families. Obviously Nicola and Fiona have been part of a wider working group, and their drive and energy and commitment and enthusiasm has really helped us to get where we are now. We're still working to make sure we've got all of the schools across the county, the primary schools in the cluster and case clinic arrangements, but we're nearly there, and we hope by the end of this term that everybody will be involved and have access to those arrangements. Thank you.